Welcome to today's beginner's guide on how to use the Fujifilm dials to take awesome pictures. Today you're going to learn how to use the dials, what they are used for, but also how to emulate the functions of the PASM dials. What is exposure? Exposure is basically the amount of light that is reaching your sensor. And what we call exposure triangle is the three parameters that you can control to basically change this exposure. You have the aperture, which is basically the opening of your lens, the shutter speed, which is the speed at which your camera takes a picture, and finally you have the ISO, which is actually applied after the light reaches your sensor and is again applied onto the signal that is produced by this sensor. Now the Fujifilm cameras allows you to control each one of those different exposure triangle parameters with one specific dials. So let's dive into each one of those dials and how you use them. First, let's talk about the shutter speed dials. The shutter speed dials control how fast or slow your camera takes a picture. When you turn it to a higher number, like 500 or 1000, it captures fast-moving subject without blur, like a bird or a fight or any sports activities. On the other hand, if you set it to a lower number, you'll get a dreamy effect in a picture of waterfalls or flowing rivers. So remember, higher number is to freeze action and lower number is for artistic blur basically. Alright, the second dial that we're going to talk about is the aperture dial, which is located on your lens. The aperture dial changes the size of the opening of your camera's lens. When you choose a low number like f1.4 or f2.8, it creates a shallow depth of field. That means that your subject is sharp while the background behind it becomes very blurry. And this is great for example, portrait or when you want to make your subject stand out. If you're trying to create the bokeh balls that you see in some pictures, then you will want to keep your aperture number very low, meaning that you will want to have the aperture of your lens wide open. It's confusing, I know, but that's basically how you should think about it. The lower the number, the wider the aperture of the lens. When you go for a higher number like f11, f16 or f22, you get a deep depth of field. And that's perfect for landscape, for products, or for food photography where you want everything to be sharp and clear. So play with the aperture to control what is in focus and what is not. Now let's talk about the third dial, the ISO dial, which helps with the brightness of your photos. When you set a low ISO like 100 or 200, you'll get a crispy and clear shots in bright daylight where you don't need an extra gain. Now this is perfect for sunny days where there is plenty of light, but in darker situations like indoors or during sunset, you might want to increase your ISO to 800 or 1600 or even 3200. Just keep in mind that a higher ISO can introduce some grain or noise in your picture, so find the right balance for your photos. ISO is all about finding the right amount of light for your shot, and if you can't find this light naturally or by an extra light that will come in your scene, then you will have to increase your ISO to compensate. Now let's talk about the exposure compensation dial. Whenever you let your camera decide of the exposure of your picture, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the video, you might want to adjust it a little bit by telling your camera, okay, this is too bright or this is too dark. And that's when you use the exposure compensation dial. If you want your picture to look darker, you will turn it to the -1, -2, etc. If you want it to be brighter, you will turn it to the +1, +2, etc. Okay, so now that you understand what is exposure triangles, and what are the different dials on the Fujifilm camera, you might ask yourself, okay, I'm used to a PASM dials, how do I do the same thing with the Fujifilm dials? In the program mode, the camera takes care of most of the settings except the ISO, where it's pretty much the same on your Fujifilm camera. All that you have to do is to put your aperture dial in the A mode, then you will put your shutter speed dial also into the A mode, and you will be able then to choose the value of the ISO dial by yourself. That way you can achieve the P mode, the program mode. When it comes to the aperture priority mode or the A from the PASM dial, all you have to do is this time to set your ISO dial and your shutter speed dial into the A mode, and you will be in control of your aperture. So you can basically choose your aperture based on whether or not you want a shallow or very deep depth of field. When it comes to the S shutter priority mode, I think you got it at this point. This time you will put your ISO dial and your aperture dial in A mode, and you will be the one controlling your shutter speed with the dial. And finally, manual mode is where you control every setting by yourself. So this time, none of the dials will be in automatic. Put all of them in the desired value that you want to achieve, and you control everything manually. In the case of P, A, and S, if you disagree with the exposure that your camera is setting, you can adjust this exposure using your exposure compensation dial. In the case of the manual mode, you are the one who decides of this exposure, so you will adjust your parameters yourself. And that's pretty much it. Using the Fujifilm dials is actually very easy and very intuitive to the exposure triangle once you get a hand of it. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. And if you've missed it, check out this video right here where I describe how to use manual lenses on the Fujifilm camera. See you there.